Something very strange is in the air. It feels like there's some sort of dark disturbance right now, particularly in the Make America Great Again movement. There's some very strange occurrences, and I want to talk about them. And I want to, I don't know, I want to hear from you guys and see if you are feeling the same strange energy, strange vibes, because I'm looking around and I'm like, man, everyone was so excited about voting for the president who was going to engage in mass deportations and close the border and put law and order back into the streets. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. And it feels like we're now like relenting to a bunch of crybaby temper tantrum bullies. It seems very strange. I can't understand why we're doing this. So it all started, of course, when Tom Homan a few days ago was like, yeah, we're drawing down, we're bringing in more ICE agents out of Minnesota, bringing them back to DC or wherever the hell, I don't know, but we're moving them out of Minnesota. I was curious. I'm like, why? Whose plan is that? I don't understand what, like the governor and the mayor of a city in the United States are openly defying federal orders and federal law. Why would that ever be the play? The play should obviously be to go in more forcefully, to withhold federal funding. I mean, you've got a lot of levers that you could pull in order to explain to these people that we're not going to tolerate this lawlessness. But instead, curiously enough, President Trump was asked about pulling law enforcement out of Minnesota. And I got to tell you, if this response feels out of character, watch.
That big change on immigration, 700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. But it didn't come from me because I just wanted to do it. We are waiting for them to release prisoners, give us the murderers that they're holding, and all of the bad people, drug dealers, all of the bad people.
Speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals.
That's not the energy that I voted for. That's not the energy that I voted for. I know that there are some people online that I saw that they were like, no, he's talking about the National Guard. No, I mean, he's talking specifically about Minnesota and about drawing down. And I don't understand why, if these people are violent criminals and these people are the worst of the worst. I mean, we've had the press conferences. We've seen the charges, the crimes that these people have committed. We're talking about violent assault. We're talking about child predators. We're talking about murderers. We're talking about drug dealers. We're talking about really bad people, not just people who like snuck into this country and then other than that crime lived a completely innocent crime-free life. We're talking about really bad people. And you just heard President Trump say the worst of the worst. These are bad people. These are criminals. Why would you go softer? Why would you go soft? What, we want to have a more gentle touch on these terrible criminals? And I have a big problem with bowing to the demands of these, I would call them domestic terrorists, these people who are in the streets. They're obstructing a federal law enforcement agency from engaging in lawful orders. They're screaming about it. They're throwing things at them. They're making them, they are committing crimes to cover for the criminals that ICE is there to pick up in the first place. That's domestic terrorism. Why would you bow to the demands of these Democrats who have been making all of these violent threats against these ICE officers? Like, I don't get it. I don't get how you can hear people say the things that I'm about to play for you. Congress people say the things that I'm about to play for you, and you think that the right answer is to cater to their demands, even when they're actively threatening federal law enforcement like Jerry Nadler here.
But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person.
What? You'd be justified in shooting the person. Why is that? That is not rhetoric that you just, give into. That's not rhetoric that you cooperate with. In fact, now's the time to show them, to come in full force and say, you are not going to scare us. You're not going to intimidate us into not doing the things that the American people voted us in to do. So I just wonder, if we're teaching them the lesson, you teach the lesson. I always go back to the toddler argument. You have to treat the Democrats like the toddlers that they are. And when your toddler has a temper tantrum, every single person knows that whether or not you make the right choice, what you know to be true, every parent knows, is that if you give in when the toddler is screaming and crying and throwing a fit on the ground of the grocery store because they really want that extra sugary cereal that you don't want to give them, if you give in to them while they are on the ground screaming and throwing a fit, they will know the next time you go to the store, they can get their way by doing that very same thing. Every parent knows that. Now, obviously, I would argue what I'm saying now, which is you don't give them the cereal and you stand strong so that you don't teach them bad things. So I'm just wondering, if this is what we're doing, we're just oh, you guys are being totally unreasonable and irrational. We'll just give you what you want. I'm just wondering how far we take this. Because now we're moving out of Minneapolis. We need to give a softer touch. Okay, well, what about all of the Democrats trying to tell us that we need to abolish ICE? We will not negotiate with you to fund the government unless you come to the table with a list of our demands, one of which is to abolish ICE. Now, I want to play for you one of these yahoos, Jayapal, who is, of course, a member of the low IQ squad. And this is her rationale on why we should be abolishing a federal law enforcement agency like ICE.
ICE and CBP did not exist prior to 9/11, prior to the Post-Patriot Act, period. The DHS was a creation. So I'm not sure that DHS really needs to exist.
I have said for some time, going back to 2019, I've said we should dismantle DHS because DHS was only a creation after 9/11. It never existed before that.
Okay. The DHS was not a thing until it was created. And it was created after 9/11, which was the deadliest terror attack on United States soil. So therefore, because it was only created when it was created, at the time that it was created, it should not have ever have been created. What? You don't negotiate with this level of retardation. I don't understand it. Because at the same time that this argument is going on and weirdly the energy is shifting on the deportations, even though I know that there's mixed polling, I know the Democrats would provide polling saying that the American people are very concerned over it. I disagree. Everyone I talk to is we need to be doing it faster. So I disagree. But it's not just the ICE situation. All of these things are happening all at the same time. That's why I'm saying there is it's like a demonic shift. I don't know, because now we are also hearing James O'Keefe just dropped a new video on all of these Somalian, daycare centers, all of these Somalians in Minnesota who are committing epic levels of fraud. Gee, who would have thought that the pirates would come here and take advantage and commit crimes? That's crazy. But so James O'Keefe is, he's doing his thing. They're undercover and they're asking someone from the FBI questions. And it's very blackpilling to hear what this new video says. Watch.
I am a security specialist at the FBI. So I do background checks, investigations, that type of stuff. I've been working there for 5 years now.
On hidden camera, this FBI security specialist tells us the quiet part out loud.
So you don't think there's going to be any major arrests with Taj Patel or the FBI?
No. Also, I don't think anybody would ever go to prison.
Now, thanks to the brave work of citizen journalists like Nick Shirley, Americans were able to see what actually happens in Minnesota outside these daycare centers.
Do you think they're going to arrest people, like, that are dealing with the daycare stuff?
I think by the time that case is done, even being, like, looked at, being ready to go to court, Trump won't even be in office anymore. Like, they would most likely be thrown out very quickly. Fraud cases like that, like money stuff, years, literal years of time. They're going to try and pin it on somebody.
Like, what are we doing? Why is Nick Shirley has to have 24/7 security now? Like, why are we going out there and exposing this stuff if we have a Republican administration in a Trump 2.0 time, and still the vibe is like, yeah, no, there's going to be no arrests. There's going to be nothing. No one's going to serve time for it. No one's going to be held accountable. We're getting all this information about corruption stemming at the very top with Barack Obama against President Trump, and like nothing's going to happen there. Why? Like, what? I don't get it. And so you've got all of these things happening all at the same time. You would hope that after all of the conversations that we have had on something as simple as safe and secure elections, you would hope that in a Trump 2.0 administration, which, by the way, should have occurred in 2021, but inexplicably, you had the mail-in ballot boxes being stuffed. You had I'm sure Venezuelan voting machines had nothing to do with the 81 million votes for Joe Biden, more popular than Barack Obama, and the safest and most secure election. I mean, you would think that if there were any president to take voter ID and secure elections seriously, it would be Donald Trump. By the way, I do believe he does. I think the people around him are crumbling at unprecedented rates. So when you see all of those things happening, it just seems very strange that now Republicans seem to be backing down on passing the SAVE Act, which, of course, would require people to have ID to vote. That is not a controversial thing. That is not like 80% of Americans support this measure. 80% of Americans all agree, yes, you should have ID to vote, because if you don't think that elections should be secure, you actually are saying, I don't take my vote seriously. Everyone who votes wants to know that their vote is taken seriously and that their vote counts and that their vote is not diluted from a bunch of fraud. So it just seems really inexplicable that the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, is like, I just don't know if there is enough time. We've taken a lot of 3, 4, 5-day weekends. And now that I think about it, we might not have time.
The coin in the realm in the Senate is floor time. There's a finite amount of it, and we have a lot of things we have to do. As I said, we will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of.
Guys, the Democrats play to win. The Democrats will nuke the filibuster day one, the moment that they have the ability. The Democrats will burn you guys to the ground. They won't piss on you if you are on fire. They are playing for keeps. And rhino loser, ballless John Thune is like, but what if we nuke the filibuster and then we might actually have to get stuff done? We can't do that. Like, what are we doing? Who needs enemies with friends like these? Which is the exact argument that I made for not allowing John Thune to take over in the Senate. But that's a story for another day. That's a story for another day. Now, if you listen to the Democrats, because I guess now we're caving to all the Democrat demands. If you listen to the Democrats, they, of course, will say like, oh, the SAVE Act it's racist or something.
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting.
Like, that's because they know that it's true. No, buddy. No, dipshit. It's because even MSDNC knew they're throwing up the graphic at the same time that you're like, it's Jim Crow 2.0. They're showing that the overwhelming majority of both parties, 95% of Republicans, 71% of Democrats, the overwhelming majority of both parties agree you should have to show ID to vote. That's really, really basic. I don't understand why the Democrats are so racist that they think that black people are so damn dumb they can't figure out how to get an ID. Like they don't know how to MapQuest their way to the Department of Public Safety. They don't know how to fill out the form. They can't read. I don't know. It's all like the soft bigotry of low expectations. Why would you cooperate with that? I don't know. I don't get it, but it feels very strange. It feels like there are very dark forces at play right now. And it feels like there are some people who are advising President Trump that really should not be. And I've heard rumors. I don't know who it is exactly. I've heard rumors of who it is, but it just all feels so coordinated right now that he be handed losses at this stage. And I just want to tell you, if I wanted to take a shellacking in the midterms, this is exactly what I would be doing. Because if you want to galvanize the base, if you want to electrify your base, obviously the Democrats are going to go out en masse to vote against Donald Trump because Orange Man bad. It doesn't matter what you do. That's the thing. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you stop the deportations. It doesn't matter if you slow them down. It doesn't matter if you give a softer touch. It doesn't matter if you're more gentle with the criminals. It doesn't matter if you don't pass the SAVE Act. It does not matter. None of this matters. They are still going to go out there because Orange Man bad. They're already broken. They are not here to negotiate with you. They are here to demand. And we cannot allow them to think for 1 second that they get to call the shots. It's why they're in the minority. Now is the time to press forward. Now is the time. So there's another thing that's really bugging me that President Trump is like really changing tune on. And you guys know me. I'm all in. I'm all MAGA. I am America first through and through to my core. I added the president to my damn set. Okay. He's right there behind me all the time, just peeking in on me because I love that man. I don't know what to think about the things that he is saying right now. It is so out of character. I'm like, is he being held hostage? Like, where is the Donald Trump that I know? Something is amiss, and I want to know what that is.